Hello everyone, it's SpawnPoiint, and a few weeks ago I swapped my 27-inch LG GP950 gaming monitor for the 42-inch LG C2 OLED. Both are awesome screens and are packing some serious gaming features, but today I will explain which one I think is better out of the two and which one I'll be keeping. I have linked to them both below along with any gear you might see in today's video. Let's start with the specs of these two. So when it comes to which is packing the better gaming focus features, it's safe to say they are very similarly spec'd. They both offer HDMI 2.1, 4K, 120Hz and VRR. They also have ALLM, FreeSync and G-Sync compatibility. That means whether I'm using it with my PS5, Xbox Series X, or if I wanted to a PC, they'd all work perfectly with these monitors. Ultimately, you cannot go wrong with either of these. Now, screen size is definitely going to be the biggest difference here, and it's kind of relative to how big your desk is, how far you sit from it, and what games you play. But these two offer completely different gaming experiences, and something that I have found to be the case over the last few weeks. The C2 coming in at 42 inches feels big, like really big for a desk setup. In fact, it feels like a TV setup, especially when you're sitting only 3 feet from it. But where this 42 inch really shines is playing those story-driven games. It feels far more immersive, as practically my entire vision is taken up by what's on the screen. But when playing FPS games, which is what I play a lot from this desk, that's where I've struggled a bit over the last couple of weeks. I can just about glance into the corners of the screen, but most of the time I actually find myself very slightly turning my head to check what's going on. Now, of course, that doesn't stop me from getting wins in war zones, as this TV is stupidly fast. There's absolutely no lag on this TV, the only delay really are my own reactions. Whereas on the GP950 at just 27 inches, it feels far more focused. I can see everything on the screen without needing to look around too much. I'd say it actually feels more intense playing on this monitor over the C2, which is probably better overall for FPS gaming. But then when playing story-driven games or racing games, the 27 inches definitely feels too small. And here's what they look like together. It's only when you see them side by side do you realise how much extra screen space you get with the 42 inch. And those 42 inches really make it look like an awesome gaming monitor. But when they are together, you can really see the picture quality differences as well. So there's no denying it, the C2 OLED looks in almost every single way better than the GP950. The image quality, clarity and contrast is perfect. If I had to choose a screen based on picture quality alone, the C2 wins hands down. And seeing the two side by side, you can really see how much clearer and vibrant the C2 looks. Every game that I test or that I play on this just looks awesome. You're pretty much seeing the best graphics you can possibly get from a game on this monitor. It's also super smooth and there's no screen tearing while playing, and plus that VRR works so well. It's actually pretty difficult for any other screen that's out there to compete with this. Well, apart from QD OLED, which I've not had a chance to test out yet. Now, the GP950 still looks great. It's a 4K 27-inch screen with an IPS panel. On its own, it gives out an incredible picture quality, the colours look great and the contrast is decent. You can clearly see how nice the image looks on any game that you play, but it lacks that contrast and deep blacks that you get from an OLED. It's only really when comparing the two side by side do you notice how flat the image looks on the GP950. There doesn't appear to be as much depth, and the local dimming and the black levels are pretty poor. It's probably one of the biggest downsides of this monitor. And if the picture quality is one of the main things that you're looking from a TV or a monitor, you're going to want to choose the C2 over the GP950. Response time and input lag are two of the biggest reasons that gamers choose to play on a monitor over a TV, but the figures for these two are almost irrelevant. The C2 is one of the fastest TVs that you can buy for gaming, and it's only a fraction slower than the GP950. In fact, it's actually faster than most monitors that you can buy. Response time is near instant on both of these, while the input lag is insanely fast. Until you've played on a TV or monitor with a low input lag, it's hard to explain what difference it makes while playing. Anything under 25 milliseconds is good, but anything under 15 milliseconds is considered competitive, while the C2 comes in at around 5 to 13 milliseconds depending on the resolution that you're in. That is rapid for a monitor, let alone a TV. The GP950, on the other hand, that can hit between 4 and 9 milliseconds depending on that resolution. It's clearly faster on paper, but realistically, you're not going to notice the difference. Anyone who says you can't play competitive games on a TV has never played on one of LG's OLEDs. These are not like normal TVs. And viewing angles are one of the most noticeable differences between the two, although it might not be a huge concern as the chances are you will be sitting straight on. The GP950 has decent viewing angles for an IPS monitor, but as you move off center you can see the colours get slightly washed out and you lose some contrast. But again, you will likely be watching this straight on anyway. The C2 on the other hand has incredible viewing angles. No matter what angle you sit at or how you place the screen, you'll always get those perfect colours, brightness and contrast. I guess this is only useful if you want to sit slightly off center or tilt the screen away from you. But as the screen is larger, it does mean that the entire screen is perfectly lit and the picture quality is evenly displayed. The corners of the screen will never look washed out and you won't lose any contrast. Now, a subject that not a lot of people talk about are the reflections. Depending on where you place your monitor or TV, reflections could play a huge part in which screen you go for. There's no denying it, the C2 OLED is incredibly reflective. You're going to see yourself, what's behind you, windows, lights, and everything else. Now, if you're in a dark room or away from any windows, this probably won't be an issue. But for myself, I have a window directly opposite this screen. So during the day, you're going to see the windows in any of the dark scenes. But even filming these videos, I've had to choose my moments based on how sunny it was outside. The GP950 though has a sort of matte finish. You still see some glare from lights on my windows, but it's not quite the same as a mirror-like finish on the OLED. The downside of this though is the screen isn't anywhere near as sharp or as vibrant, but it means I can play during the day and I'm not going to see the reflections behind. And seeing the two side by side, you can see just how much more reflective the OLED is, whereas the GP950 has a more of a flatter image. So there are definitely pros and cons depending on the screen that you go for. Of course, using either of these at night likely won't be a problem or in a room where you can manage the light, but it's still something worth mentioning. And if it wasn't clear already, both of these are gaming focus screens. The LG C2 comes with this game optimizer mode, and that's this little pop-up window that you can view at a press of a button. It displays all of the current stats of the game that you're playing, like VRR, and you can also tweak some of the gaming settings or change the picture profiles. The LG GP950 does also have a gaming focus menu. Tapping the button under the screen displays this overlay. From here you can view the current frame rate, FreeSync and HDR settings, and create and save your gamer profiles. It's not quite as good as the C2, but it's still decent enough once you're set up. A quick look at the design and the overall appearance. So the C2 just looks awesome. The thin bezels and borderless look is so nice and it just looks clean. The GP950 is quite chunky by comparison. It's got a thicker frame and edge, but it's still got an almost borderless look from the front. But you've got to give it to the C2, it looks so much nicer on the desk. Now the GP950 comes with this stand that just clicks onto the back of the monitor. It can move up and down and pivot and rotate, and it definitely feels more like a gaming stand. While the C2 comes with these little feet that go either side of the TV. They're tidy and they have some decent cable management built into the back. Now you might prefer to wall mount these or actually attach them to an arm. Well, you can. The C2 has VESA holes on the back for either wall mounting it, or if you buy a VESA adapter, you can fit it to an arm that's suitable. The GP950 also has VESA holes, but it can also fit to LG's ergo brackets. I have mounted it to one of their ergo brackets and I think it looks so much nicer, but it definitely has a less of a gaming monitor vibe when you use one of their stands. When it comes to using speakers or headphones, I tend to use headphones when I'm playing online, and then I'll use speakers for everything else. Unfortunately, the GP950 does not come with speakers built in, which then means you are forced to either use external speakers or a headset. That's obviously not an issue for most, but after using the C2 for the last few weeks, I have got used to using the speakers. The option to have the PS5 sound coming straight through the TV without any extra speakers or using my headphones really has been convenient. It's not something that I thought I would use, but it is something that I would miss if I went back to the GP950. And a quick look around the back where they both come with HDMI 2.1 ports. The GP950 has 2, while the C2 has a total of 4. Now that's awesome for almost any desk setup, but the biggest difference between the two is the fact that the GP950 comes with a DisplayPort 1.4. This is clearly aimed at PC gaming and it allows you to get up to 160Hz. This port just does not exist on the C2. For console gamers this won't be an issue, but PC gamers would either have to stick with HDMI 2.1 or you could use an adapter to go from HDMI to DisplayPort. So we know that both of these offer very similar specs, but what are some of the differences that we've not covered today? Well, the C2 is obviously a TV rather than a monitor. That means it's got a home screen, app launcher and other features you would expect from a TV. Now the GP950 isn't a TV, so it doesn't have a home screen, it doesn't have an app launcher and you cannot watch things like Netflix. But then as you'll probably be connecting this to a console or a PC, it means you can likely watch all of those apps directly through that device. But a cool feature about this monitor is it does have some awesome LED lights on the back. You can set it to a static color or choose the rainbow effect. Or if you're using it connected to a PC with that display port, you can adapt it to the content that's on the screen. It kind of acts like an amber light. And although this is of no concern to me, the C2 is an OLED, so there's always going to be that very slight risk of burning. The GP950 won't have any such issues, so that's one less thing to worry about. So how much do these cost? Well, the 27-inch GP950 comes in at £800 or $900, while the 42-inch C2 comes in at £1,400 or $1,400. That's a pretty big price difference. So you're getting the same spec in terms of the screen resolution, gaming features and response time, but what you're paying extra for is the size, the OLED picture quality and the added TV features. Whether the extra price is worth it is down to you and which features that you need, but ultimately the biggest difference other than the price is the screen size. And having used them both now, the smaller one for the last 6 months and the larger OLED for the last 3 weeks, I still feel the 42 inch is slightly too big for gaming on my desk. Single player games look incredible, but I'd rather play those on my 77 inch instead, which means the 42 inch is kind of in the middle for me. It's too big for me to want to play FPS games, but then if I want to play story games, I'll just play those on the larger TV. It is a tough choice, but for me, I am actually going to go back to the 27 inch GP950, as overall I think it's a better monitor for what I need it for. It's a powerful little screen and it's one that I'm actually very happy with. But if the question is which one do I think is the better all-rounder for gaming, it is an easy choice and it's the 42 inch LG C2. It's packing the same features as a dedicated gaming monitor, but it's bigger, better quality, brighter and looks awesome. If your desk setup can take a 42 inch and you don't mind the larger screen, this is the one to go for. However, if they released a 32 inch or 38 inch OLED, I think that would be the sweet spot for my desk. And what do you think? Which is the better choice here, the 27 inch, the 42 inch or another size? And if you did enjoy today's video, check out my full review videos next, as they cover the GP950 and the C2 OLED in greater detail. Thanks for watching, please like, sub and follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Happy gaming, until next time.